The stars looked different when you knew aliens were watching. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, staring at the blue-white sun ahead. Somewhere in this system waited the Zaphirians, Earth's first real contact with an advanced alien race. "Captain, we're getting their signal," said Lieutenant Amy Parker from her station. "They're directing us to the third planet." Jake nodded. 3 years of planning had led to this moment. Humanity had been exploring space for decades, finding empty worlds and dead civilizations. Then the long-range scanners picked up the Zaphirian ships, real aliens with real technology, controlling 12 star systems. Ambassador Lisa Clark walked onto the bridge. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. For 20 years, she had solved Earth's toughest diplomatic problems. Now she faced her biggest challenge yet. "How are you feeling, Ambassador?" Jake asked. "Nervous," Lisa admitted. "We know so little about them. They're powerful, they're organized, and they agreed to meet us. That's about all we know." Danny Walsh, her young aide, joined them. He carried a tablet full of notes and looked excited. "The language programs are working well. We should be able to communicate clearly." Jake had read all the reports. The Zaphirians were tall beings made of living crystal. They had faster ships than humans and controlled more territory. Most importantly, they had agreed to formal talks when Earth sent the first contact message. "Captain, we're approaching the planet," reported Chief Engineer Carlos Rodriguez. "Their ships are moving to escort us." Through the view screen, Jake saw them. The Zaphirian vessels were beautiful and terrifying. They looked like giant crystals floating in space, glowing with inner light. Each one was twice the size of the horizon. "Ambassador, they're requesting you prepare for transport to their world," Amy said. Lisa straightened her diplomatic uniform. "Ready the security team." "Just 2 guards as agreed." Jake didn't like it. 2 guards seemed too few, but the Zaphirians had been clear. Too many armed humans would be seen as aggressive. This first meeting had to go perfectly. The transport beam was unlike anything human technology could produce. One moment Lisa and her team stood in the horizon's bay. The next they materialized on an alien world. The city around them was stunning. Crystal towers reached into purple skies. The air itself seemed to sparkle. "Welcome, humans." The voice came from a being 12 feet tall, its body made of blue-white crystal that pulsed with light. "I am High Chancellor Vexithera. You may consider this a great honor." Lisa stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you, Chancellor. I am Ambassador Clark, representing Earth and all human colonies. We come in peace, hoping to build friendship between our peoples." The Chancellor's crystalline face was hard to read, but something in his tone seemed cold. "Peace. Yes, let us discuss what peace means between our species." They walked through the crystal city. Everywhere, tall Zaphirians stopped to stare at the humans. Their expressions seemed curious but not friendly. Lisa noticed how they towered over her small group. "Your people are young," Vexithera said as they entered a massive crystal palace. "We have ruled these stars for 3,000 of your years. In that time, we have learned much about order and proper hierarchy. Humanity values learning from older civilizations," Lisa replied carefully. "We hope to share knowledge and grow together." The Chancellor led them into a great hall filled with other Zaphirians. All were tall and imposing. Lisa felt very small among these crystal giants. "Let us begin formal discussions," Vexithera announced. "First, we must establish the natural order. The Zaphirian collective is the supreme power in this region of space. All other species acknowledge this truth." Lisa exchanged glances with Danny. This wasn't how they had hoped talks would start. "Chancellor, humanity believes in equality between species," Lisa said. "We've found that cooperation works better than hierarchy." A ripple went through the assembled Zaphirians. Several began making clicking sounds that the translation system couldn't interpret. "Equality?" Vexthara's voice rose. "You suggest that your primitive species stands equal to the great Zaphirian race? We who have mastered space while you crawled in dirt?" "We don't consider any species primitive," Lisa said, keeping her voice calm. "Each race has unique strengths. Humans value freedom and cooperation. We'd like to offer those values to any friendship we build." The clicking sounds grew louder. Lisa realized the other Zaphirians were agitated. On the horizon, Jake watched through the communication link, growing more worried. "Ambassador, their energy readings are spiking," Amy reported. "Something's wrong down there." Vexithara raised one crystalline hand and the hall fell silent. "You misunderstand your position, human. You have entered Zaphirian space. Here you follow Zaphirian law, and our law is clear about the hierarchy of species. What exactly are you asking? Lisa said. Acknowledgement. Your species will formally recognize Zaphirian superiority. You will accept limited territory under our guidance. You will contribute resources and ships to our collective. In return, we will allow humanity to survive and grow within proper boundaries. Lisa felt her heart sink. Earth's leaders had prepared her for many possibilities, but not this. The Zaphirians weren't interested in friendship or trade. They wanted submission. Chancellor, I need to be clear about something, Lisa said. Humanity has never accepted the rule of others. We fought wars among ourselves rather than bow to tyrants. We certainly won't bow to aliens no matter how advanced. The silence that followed was deafening. Every Zaphirian in the hall stared at the small human woman who had just defied their supreme leader. You refuse? Vexthara's voice was deadly quiet. I refuse, Lisa said firmly. Humanity offers friendship, trade, and mutual respect. We don't offer servitude. Jake watched from the horizon as the Chancellor's crystal body began glowing brighter. All around the hall, other Zaphirians started pulsing with angry light. Captain, Carlos said urgently, their ships are powering weapons. Ambassador, Vexthara said slowly, you have insulted the honor of the Zaphirian collective. You have refused the generous offer of survival under our rule. You have called yourself equal to your betters. Lisa stood straighter. I've spoken the truth about human values. If that insults you, then perhaps our species are too different for friendship. The Chancellor's laugh was like breaking glass. Too different. Yes, I believe you are correct. Guards, show these humans what happens to species that reject Zaphirian generosity. Jake saw the crystalline warriors moving before Lisa did. Ambassador, get out of there now! But it was too late. The trap had been set from the beginning. The crystal blade went through Lisa's chest before she could move. Ambassador Clark, Earth's most skilled diplomat, died instantly on an alien world, far from home. Her eyes went wide with shock, then empty as her body fell to the crystal floor. No, Danny Walsh screamed, rushing toward his mentor. A second Zaphirian guard struck him down with a glowing spear. The young aide collapsed next to the ambassador, blood spreading across the beautiful crystal tiles. The two human security officers drew their weapons, but they were surrounded. The Zaphirians moved with deadly grace, their crystal weapons cutting through human armor like paper. In seconds, the entire diplomatic team lay dead. On the horizon, Jake Morrison watched in horror. The communication link showed everything. Lisa's murder, Danny's scream, the cold efficiency of the slaughter. His hands shook as he gripped the captain's chair. Captain, what are your orders? Amy Parker's voice was tight with rage and fear. Jake's mind raced. 4 good people were dead. The Zaphirians had invited them to talk, then murdered them in cold blood. This wasn't a misunderstanding or accident. It was planned execution. Get us out of here, Jake ordered. Carlos, I need maximum power to the engines. Already working on it, Captain, the engineer replied. But their ships are moving to intercept. Through the view screen, Jake saw the crystal vessels moving like predators. They had been waiting for this moment. The whole diplomatic meeting had been a trap. High Chancellor Vexthara's voice came over the communication system. Captain Morrison, your species has chosen poorly. We offered mercy and received insult. Now witness the price of defying the Zaphirian collective. Energy beams lanced out from the alien ships. The horizon's shields flared as they absorbed the first impacts. The human ship was tough, but it was 1 vessel against 6. And the Zaphirian weapons were more advanced than anything Earth had ever built. Shields down to 60%, Amy reported. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Carlos, how long until we can jump? Jake demanded. 2 minutes if you want us to arrive in one piece. 1 minute if you don't care where we end up. Another barrage hit the horizon. The lights flickered as power systems strained. Jake felt the ship shudder around him. They were taking too much damage. Captain, message coming through from the planet, Amy said. It's the Chancellor. Jake's jaw clenched. Put him on. Vexthara's crystal face appeared on the screen. Behind him, Jake could see Lisa's body still lying on the floor. The sight made his vision go red with anger. Your ambassador refused to accept reality. the Chancellor said. So we helped her understand. Your species is weak and primitive. You will submit to Zaphirian rule or face extinction. You murdered innocent diplomats, Jake said through gritted teeth. Ambassador Clark came in peace. She came with arrogance, Vexthara replied. She dared to claim equality with her superiors. Such thinking is a disease that must be cut out. We have done your species a favor by removing this infection. Jake wanted to scream at the alien to promise revenge to make threats, but he was a military officer. His duty was to get his crew home alive and warn Earth about what had happened. Enjoy your victory, Jake said quietly. It will be your last. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Carlos, jump us out now. I don't care if we end up in the middle of nowhere. Jumping in 10 seconds, the engineer confirmed. The horizon lurched as space twisted around them. The last thing Jake saw was the crystal ships moving to follow. Then the stars changed and they were free, but barely. The ship's engines were failing, life support was damaged, and they were lost in an unknown system. It took Carlos 6 hours to get them stable enough to plot a course home. How long to reach Earth? Jake asked. At current speed, 3 weeks, Carlos said, and that's if nothing else breaks. Make it work, Jake ordered. Earth needs to know what happened here. The journey home was the longest of Jake's life. Every day he watched the recordings of Lisa's murder. Every night he dreamed of her final moments. The Zaphirians had killed her for refusing to bow. They had executed Danny for trying to help. They had slaughtered the guards for doing their duty. Amy spent hours analyzing the alien weapons and ships. Captain, they're more advanced than we thought. Their energy weapons are at least 50 years ahead of ours, and their ship hulls are some kind of living crystal that repairs itself. What about numbers? Jake asked. Based on what we saw, they probably have 800 warships spread across their 12 systems, maybe more. Jake felt sick. Earth had maybe 200 ships, and most of those were exploration vessels or freighters. Humanity was outnumbered 4-1 by technologically superior enemies who had already shown they preferred murder to negotiation. When the horizon finally limped into Earth's solar system, emergency ships rushed out to meet them. Jake was taken directly to Global Defense Headquarters, where President Helen Carter was waiting with her top advisors. Captain Morrison, the president said, "We've received your preliminary report. Please tell us everything." Jake played the recordings. He watched the president's face turn pale as Lisa died on screen. He saw General Marcus Stone clench his fists as Danny fell. He heard Admiral Karen Brooks curse under her breath as the guards were cut down. They planned this from the beginning, Jake said when the footage ended. The whole diplomatic meeting was a trap. They wanted to send a message that humans are beneath them. And what message is that? President Carter asked. Submit or die, Jake replied. They see us as primitive animals that need to be controlled or put down. General Stone spoke first. Madam President, this is a clear act of war. They murdered our diplomats under a flag of truce. It's worse than that, Admiral Brooks added. They're testing us. They want to see how we react to losing our ambassador. If we do nothing, they'll know we're weak. President Carter stared at the frozen image of Lisa's body on the alien floor. Ambassador Clark spent her life preventing wars. She believed in peaceful solutions. She looked up at her advisors. But she also believed in protecting innocent people from bullies and tyrants. What are your orders, Madam President? General Stone asked. Carter's voice was quiet, but firm. The Zaphirians want to know how humanity reacts when they murder our diplomats. I think it's time they found out. Jake felt something cold settle in his chest. Earth was going to war with an alien empire that outnumbered and outgunned them. But as he thought of Lisa's final stand, refusing to bow even in the face of death, he knew there was no other choice. The Zaphirians had killed Earth's envoy. Now they would learn why that was the worst mistake they could have made. The war room was silent except for the hum of computers. General Marcus Stone stood before a massive holographic display showing the Zaphirian Collective's 12 star systems. Red dots marked enemy fleet positions. Blue dots showed human colonies. There weren't nearly enough blue dots. The situation is grim, General Stone said to the assembled leaders. The Zaphirians have approximately 800 warships. We have 230 vessels, and most of those are cargo ships or exploration craft. President Helen Carter studied the display. What about actual warships? 67 combat vessels, Admiral Karen Brooks replied. The rest would need extensive modification to be useful in battle. Their technology is also superior, added Dr. Nathan Cross, the head of Advanced Weapons Research. Our energy shields are weaker, our weapons have shorter range, and their crystal hulls seem to repair themselves during combat. The president looked around the room at Earth's military leadership. Gentleman, lady, are you telling me this war is hopeless? General Stone hesitated. Madam President, in a conventional conflict, yes. We would lose badly. Then we don't fight conventionally, President Carter said firmly. The Zaphirians murdered Ambassador Clark because they think humans are predictable and weak. Let's prove them wrong. Admiral Brooks leaned forward. What do you have in mind? Tell me about our advantages, the president said. What can humans do that the Zaphirians cannot? Dr. Cross cleared his throat. Well, based on Captain Morrison's observations, they seem very rigid in their thinking. Their society is built on hierarchy and following rules. They probably expect us to fight the same way. Go on, Carter encouraged. Humans adapt quickly. General Stone said slowly. We improvise, we take risks, we change tactics in the middle of battle. Most military doctrines teach soldiers to follow orders and stick to the plan. And their size works against them in some ways. Admiral Brooks added, they're 12 feet tall and made of crystal. They can't hide easily or move through small spaces. They probably don't think much about stealth or guerrilla warfare. President Carter smiled for the first time since watching Lisa's murder. Dr. Cross, what do we have in development that the Zaphirians don't know about? Nathan Cross hesitated. There is Project Prometheus, but it's still experimental. Tell me about it. Quantum stealth technology combined with our new torpedo design. The torpedoes were originally meant for asteroid mining, but they could be weaponized. A ship equipped with quantum stealth could appear right next to an enemy vessel without being detected. How many ships could we outfit with this technology? 50, maybe 60 if we work around the clock for 6 months. General Stone frowned. 60 ships against 800 is still terrible odds. Not if those 60 ships can strike without warning and disappear, Admiral Brooks said, understanding the plan. Hit-and-run tactics. Make them afraid to spread their forces. President Carter nodded. What else do we have? Commander Rick Hayes, the Special Forces leader, spoke up. Our ground troops are smaller and more agile than theirs. If we can get teams onto their planets, we could cause serious damage to their infrastructure. Humans are good at guerrilla warfare. The Zaphirians rule through fear and control. Dr. Cross added, their subject species probably hate them. If we could inspire rebellions on their worlds, they'd have to split their forces to maintain order. The president stood and walked to the holographic display. Admiral Brooks, I want you to design a campaign based on these principles. Hit their outer colonies first with stealth ships. Make them pull back their fleets to protect their territory. General Stone, start converting every ship we have. I want cargo vessels turned into missile platforms. Exploration ships fitted with the best weapons we can build. If it can fly, it can fight. Dr. Cross, make Project Prometheus your top priority. I want those stealth ships ready in 5 months, not 6. Commander Hayes, train every volunteer who wants to fight. We're going to need ground forces for planetary operations. Stone looked worried. Madam President, this plan is extremely risky. If it fails, Earth will be defenseless. General, the Zaphirians have already shown us what happens to species that try to negotiate with them. They murder diplomats and demand submission. Earth will never bow to alien tyrants. Carter turned back to the display, staring at the red dots marking enemy positions. They killed Lisa Clark because they thought she was weak. They think all humans are weak. It's time to show them how wrong they are. Over the next 5 months, Earth transformed into a military powerhouse. Shipyards that once built cargo vessels now produced warships. Factories that made mining equipment switched to creating weapons. Every human colony contributed resources and volunteers. Captain Jake Morrison was promoted to admiral and given command of the 1st Stealth Squadron. His new ship, the UES Vengeance, was equipped with the most advanced technology humanity had ever created. It's beautiful, Jake said as he toured the vessel with Dr. Cross. How does the quantum stealth work? The ship exists in a state of partial dimensional shift, Cross explained. To enemy sensors, you're barely there. You can approach within a few thousand meters before they detect you. And the torpedoes. Each one carries a quantum warhead that can destroy a ship 10 times your size. The explosion creates a temporary black hole that tears apart molecular bonds. Jake nodded grimly. How many ships like this do we have? 57 completed, with more coming online every week. Not enough to match their numbers, but enough to hurt them badly. Meanwhile, Commander Hayes trained 10,000 volunteers in special operations. His soldiers learned to fight in low gravity, to use captured alien equipment, and to inspire rebellions among oppressed populations. Remember, Hayes told his troops, the Zaphirians expect enemies to fight fair and follow rules. We're not going to do either. We hit hard, we disappear, and we make them afraid of every shadow. Admiral Brooks coordinated the overall strategy from her headquarters on Mars. Intelligence reports showed the Zaphirians were growing impatient. Their patrols had increased along human borders, and their propaganda broadcasts demanded Earth's immediate surrender. They're getting ready to attack our colonies, Brooks reported to President Carter. We need to strike first. How long until our forces are ready? Carter asked. The stealth fleet is operational. Ground forces are trained and equipped. Modified cargo ships are armed and crewed. It's not everything we wanted, but it's enough to begin. President Carter looked at the star charts one more time. Somewhere out there, High Chancellor Vexthera was probably planning humanity's destruction. He had murdered Earth's ambassador and expected humans to submit or die quietly. Send the order to all units, Carter said quietly. Operation Darkstar begins immediately. It's time to avenge Ambassador Clark. As Admiral Jake Morrison received his orders aboard the UES Vengeance, he thought about Lisa's final words to the Zaphirian Chancellor. She had refused to bow, refused to accept humanity's supposed inferiority, refused to betray Earth's values even when facing death. Now it was time to show the galaxy that her courage represented all of humanity. The UES Vengeance materialized out of quantum space like a ghost made real. Admiral Jake Morrison watched the Zaphirian colony world of Calaxus Prime grow larger on his view screen. The enemy had no idea death was approaching. Stealth systems holding steady, reported his tactical officer. Their sensors show no sign of detecting us, Jake nodded. 3 months of careful planning had led to this moment. Operation Darkstar would begin with simultaneous attacks on 3 outer Zaphirian colonies. If the plan worked, humanity would announce its presence in the war with devastating effect. Target the orbital defense platforms first, Jake ordered. We need to clear the way for Captain Torres in the second wave. The quantum torpedoes launched silently through space. Each warhead carried enough destructive power to crack a small moon. The Zaphirians never saw them coming. The first defense platform simply vanished in a ball of twisted space-time. The second followed moments later. By the time the aliens realized they were under attack, half their orbital defenses had been destroyed. Enemy ships are scrambling, the tactical officer reported. 6 crystal vessels moving to intercept. Let them come, Jake said coldly. Fire at will. The Vengeance unleashed its full arsenal. Quantum torpedoes tore through crystal hulls like they were made of paper. Energy beams sliced off weapon systems and engine pods. In 5 minutes, the Zaphirian defense fleet was reduced to glowing debris. Captain Torres, you're clear for landing operations, Jake transmitted to the second wave. Captain Susan Torres commanded the assault ship UES Reaper. Her vessel dropped out of stealth directly above the planet's capital city. The Zaphirians below looked up in shock as human soldiers began deploying from dropships. Remember the mission, Torres told her ground teams over the radio. Destroy their communication arrays, weapons factories, and government buildings. Make them understand that nowhere is safe. Colonel Peter Nash led the first ground assault. His soldiers moved through the Crystal City like shadows, using tactics the rigid Zaphirian military had never encountered. They struck fast and hard, then disappeared into the maze of crystal tunnels beneath the city. Sir, we've taken the main communication hub, Nash reported, broadcasting the liberation message now. Across the planet, screens that normally showed Zaphirian propaganda suddenly displayed a human woman speaking in perfect Zaphirian language. The message was simple but powerful. People of Calaxus Prime, you are no longer slaves to the collective. Earth offers freedom to all who reject Zaphirian tyranny. Join us and help build a galaxy where all species are equal. The reaction was immediate. The Draknari, a reptilian species enslaved by the Zaphirians for centuries, began rioting in the industrial districts. The winged Arathi attacked their crystal overseers with makeshift weapons. Across the planet, The oppressed rose against their oppressors. Similar scenes played out on two other worlds as human forces struck without warning. The Zaphirians, who had ruled through fear for thousands of years, suddenly found themselves afraid. High Chancellor Vexithera received the reports in his crystal palace on Zerion Prime. His advisors clustered around him, their crystal bodies pulsing with agitation. Impossible, Vexithera declared. The humans have 60 ships at most. How could they destroy 3 colonies simultaneously? Their technology appears more advanced than we calculated, his military commander admitted. Our sensors could not detect their approach. Our defenses were useless against their weapons. And the subject species? Rebelling on all 3 worlds. They believe the humans can protect them from retaliation. Vexthara's crystal form glowed brighter with rage. Recall the outer fleets. Fortify our core systems. The humans think they can challenge the collective with surprise attacks. We will show them the price of defying our rule. But Admiral Karen Brooks, coordinating the human campaign from her command ship, had anticipated this reaction. As Zaphirian fleets pulled back to protect their important worlds, human stealth ships struck their supply lines and isolated outposts. The UES Shadow, commanded by Captain Lisa Wu, destroyed a Zaphirian supply convoy heading to reinforce their border fleets. The aliens never saw the attack coming. One moment they were traveling through empty space, the next their ships were burning wrecks. This is too easy, Wu told her crew after the battle. They can't adapt to our tactics at all. She was right. The Zaphirians had spent 3,000 years conquering weaker species through overwhelming force and superior technology. They had never faced an enemy that refused to fight fair, that struck from stealth and disappeared before retaliation was possible. Colonel Nash continued his guerrilla campaign on Calaxis Prime. His soldiers had trained the local rebels in human combat techniques. Now Draknari and Arathi fighters moved through the crystal cities like human special forces, hitting targets and vanishing before the enemy could respond. Sir, we've destroyed their main weapons factory, Nash reported to Admiral Brooks. Local rebels are holding 3 districts of the capital. The Zaphirian governor is requesting reinforcements. Reinforcements they can't spare, Brooks replied. Excellent work, Colonel. Phase 2 begins in 12 hours. Phase 2 was more ambitious. While stealth ships continued their hit-and-run attacks, human battle groups began striking at secondary targets. The converted cargo ships, armed with everything Earth's engineers could mount on them, attacked Zaphirian mining operations and industrial worlds. Captain Roy Barnes commanded the converted freighter UES Bulldog. His ship wasn't fast or pretty, but it carried enough missiles to level a city. When he hit the Zaphirian mining world of Thexara, the enemy barely had time to raise shields before his barrage arrived. This is for Ambassador Clark, Barnes said as his missiles tore apart crystal refineries and extraction equipment. The Zaphirians began to panic. Their rigid military doctrine had no answer for human tactics. They tried to predict where the next attack would come, but the humans seemed to strike everywhere at once. Vexithara finally attempted to negotiate. His message reached Earth through diplomatic channels that hadn't been used since Lisa's murder. President Carter, the Chancellor said in his recorded message, the Zaphirian collective is willing to discuss terms. We can reach an agreement that benefits both our species. President Carter's response was broadcast across all human colonies and captured Zaphirian worlds. Hi, Chancellor Vexithara murdered our ambassador when she came in peace. He killed her for refusing to bow to alien tyranny. There will be no negotiation, no compromise, no mercy. The Zaphirian collective chose extinction when they spilled human blood. Jake Morrison, now commanding a squadron of 12 stealth ships, received new orders as he patrolled the outer systems. The target was bigger this time. Nexus Station, the main supply hub for the Zaphirian fleet. It's heavily defended, his intelligence officer warned. 40 ships and orbital weapons platforms. Then we'll hit it with everything we have, Jake decided. Signal the other captains. We go in together. The attack on Nexus Station was the largest space battle in human history. 12 stealth ships appeared simultaneously, launching quantum torpedoes at the massive crystal structure. The station's shields flared and collapsed under the assault, but this time the Zaphirians were ready. As human ships pressed their attack, enemy reinforcements arrived from nearby systems. Jake found himself outnumbered 4-1. All ships break off and scatter, he ordered. Use hit-and-run tactics. The battle raged for 6 hours. Human ships would appear, fire their weapons, and vanish back into quantum space before the enemy could respond. The Zaphirians, used to grand fleet battles, couldn't handle the chaos of three-dimensional guerrilla warfare. When the smoke cleared, Nexus Station was a ruin. Half the Zaphirian reinforcements were destroyed or crippled, but Jake had lost 3 ships and their crews. "The price keeps getting higher," he said quietly as he watched the funeral broadcasts from Earth. But the strategy was working. The Zaphirian Collective, once the dominant power in their region of space, was collapsing under the pressure of human attacks and internal rebellions. Their subject species sensed weakness and were rising everywhere. The time had come for the final phase of Operation Darkstar. The final battle would be fought at Zaphirian Prime, the crystal heart of the Zaphirian Collective. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the rebuilt UES Horizon 2, watching as the largest human fleet in history prepared for the assault that would end the war. 150 ships surrounded him. Stealth fighters, converted cargo vessels, purpose-built warships, and experimental craft that had never been tested in real combat. It was everything humanity could throw at their alien enemies. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender offers from 6 more Zaphirian colonies," reported his communications officer. "They're asking for protection from the remaining collective forces." Jake nodded grimly. The Zaphirian Empire was falling apart. Rebellions burned on dozens of worlds. Their fleet had been scattered and weakened by months of human hit-and-run attacks. But High Chancellor Vexthera still controlled the homeworld with 300 ships, and he had sworn to fight to the end. "Any word from General Stone?" Jake asked. "The main fleet is in position. Admiral Brooks confirms she's ready to begin the assault." Jake looked at the tactical display. Zaphirian Prime hung in space like a blue jewel, surrounded by layers of crystal ships and orbital weapons. The Zaphirians had pulled back their remaining forces to make their final stand here. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," Jake broadcast to the fleet. "Today we finish what they started when they murdered Ambassador Clark. Today we show the galaxy that humanity keeps its promises. Attack!" The space around Zaphirian Prime exploded into violence. Human ships dropped out of quantum space at dozens of different points, confusing the rigid Zaphirian defenses. Admiral Brooks led the main battle group in a frontal assault, while stealth ships struck at the enemy flanks. The crystal ships fought with desperate fury. Their energy weapons carved through human shields and armor. The UES Defiance, a converted mining ship, took a direct hit and vanished in a ball of fire. The destroyer UES Courage lost its engines and began spinning helplessly through space. But the humans adapted and improvised as they always did. Captain Torres used her stealth ship to appear inside the enemy formation, firing quantum torpedoes at point-blank range. Captain Barnes rammed his damaged freighter into a Zaphirian cruiser, taking both ships out in a massive explosion. "Sir, we've opened a gap in their line," reported the tactical officer. "Colonel Nash is requesting permission to begin the ground assault." Jake watched as Colonel Nash's assault ships dove toward the planet's surface. The Special Forces commander had volunteered for the most dangerous mission of all, delivering a quantum singularity bomb to the exact spot where Ambassador Clark had died. "Permission granted," Jake said. "All ships, cover the ground assault." Nash's dropship screamed through the crystal atmosphere of Zaphirian Prime. Zaphirian fighters tried to intercept them, but human pilots flew with a skill and desperation their enemies couldn't match. Most of the assault force made it to the surface. The crystal capital city was a fortress. Towering spires housed defensive weapons, and Zaphirian soldiers moved through the streets in perfect formation. But Nash's troops had trained for this moment for months. "Remember, we're not here to hold territory," Nash told his soldiers over the radio. "We're here to deliver a message. Move fast, hit hard, and make them pay for every step." The battle for the capital was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human soldiers used jetpacks to leap between crystal buildings, while Zaphirian warriors tried to corner them in the narrow streets. Explosions echoed through the city as both sides fought with everything they had. In space, the fleet battle reached its climax. Jake brought the Horizon 2 alongside a massive Zaphirian dreadnought, trading fire at close range. His shields were failing, his weapons were overheating, but he refused to back down. "Sir, direct transmission from High Chancellor Vexthera," his communications officer announced. "Put him on screen," Jake ordered. The alien leader appeared, his crystal body cracked and dimmed with exhaustion. Behind him, Jake could see his palace burning as human soldiers fought their way through the corridors. "Admiral Morrison," Vexthera said. Your species has proven more dangerous than we calculated, but this madness must end. Too many have died already. You should have thought of that before you murdered our ambassador, Jake replied coldly. She defied the natural order. She refused to accept Zaphirian superiority, and you killed her for it. Now you face the consequences. On the planet's surface, Nash's team had fought their way to the Great Hall where Lisa Clark had died. The quantum singularity bomb was small enough to carry in a backpack, but its destructive power would create a localized black hole that would consume everything within 100 kilometers. This is for Ambassador Clark, Nash said as he activated the device. And for every species you've enslaved and murdered over the centuries. The Chancellor's image flickered as explosions rocked his palace. You would destroy an entire world? Billions of lives? Your world, Jake corrected. Your choice. You could have chosen peace when our ambassador offered it. Instead, you chose war. The singularity bomb reached critical mass. Nash and his remaining soldiers had 30 seconds to reach their extraction point. Most of them wouldn't make it, and they all knew it. Tell Earth, Nash radioed to the fleet. Tell them we did our duty. The quantum explosion started small, just a pinpoint of twisted space-time. Then it began to grow, consuming crystal buildings and Zaphirian soldiers alike. The Chancellor's palace, where Lisa Clark had taken her final stand, vanished into the growing black hole. In space, Jake watched as Zaphirian Prime died. The artificial singularity consumed the capital city, then spread outward like a cancer. Within minutes, a quarter of the planet's surface had been pulled into the gravitational anomaly. All Zaphirian ships, this is Admiral Morrison, Jake broadcast. Surrender now or share your homeworld's fate. The crystal ships began powering down their weapons. One by one, they transmitted surrender codes. The Zaphirian collective, which had ruled 12 star systems for 3,000 years, was finished. High Chancellor Vexthera's final transmission was barely audible through the static of his dying world. You have doomed us all, he whispered. The galaxy will never forgive this destruction. The galaxy will remember, Jake replied, that species who murder human diplomats face total extinction. The war was over. In 8 months, humanity had gone from losing their first ambassador to destroying an alien empire. The cost had been enormous. 40,000 human lives, dozens of ships, and the complete annihilation of the Zaphirian homeworld. But the message was clear. Earth would negotiate in good faith with any species willing to treat them as equals. But those who chose violence and tyranny would face humanity's unlimited capacity for total war. 6 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of Earth's new Deep Space Command Station. Before him, a holographic display showed dozens of star systems. Green dots marked human colonies. Blue dots showed allied species who had chosen friendship over conquest. And at the center of the display, where Zaphirian Prime had once been, a red dot marked the permanent gravitational anomaly that served as a monument to Ambassador Lisa Clark, and a warning to any species that might threaten humanity in the future. Admiral, his aide reported, we're receiving first contact requests from 16 different species. They all want to establish peaceful diplomatic relations. Jake smiled grimly. Send them the standard response. Earth welcomes all species that come in peace and treat us as equals. But make sure they also see the recordings from Zaphirian Prime. Yes, sir. And sir, there's also a message from the President. She's naming the new diplomatic academy after Ambassador Clark. Jake nodded, thinking of the small, brave woman who had refused to bow to alien tyrants. Her final stand had shown the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of when pushed to the limit. Tell the President I approve, Jake said, and make sure every new ambassador learns Lisa's last words to the Zaphirians. Humanity offers friendship, trade, and mutual respect. We don't offer servitude. The galaxy had learned to respect those words, and if any species ever forgot the lesson, the ruins of Zaphirian Prime would remind them of the price of underestimating human determination.